Esteemed colleagues, we gather today to delve into the saga of the Space Wolves, the Vulca Fenrica, the Wolves of Fenris. Born from the wilds of a death world and shaped by the hand of their primarch, Leman Russ, they stand apart from their brother chapters in both legend and deed. Imagine a world of ice and fire, a planet so harsh and unforgiving that only the strongest and most cunning can survive. This is Fenris, the cradle of the Space Wolves. It is a world where myth and reality intertwine. Great wolves stalk the tundra, and warriors battle not just for survival, but glory. From this brutal beginning, the Space Wolves were born. When the Emperor of Mankind found Leman Russ, he discovered not just a son, but a warrior king, leading a legion of fierce and loyal fighters. Russ instilled a sense of brotherhood and honor in his legion, forging them into a force unlike any other. They became more than soldiers. They were hunters, embodying the spirit of the wolves that roamed their homeworld. Their ways often contradicted their fellow Astartes, more disciplined and structured doctrines. The Space Wolves valued strength, courage, and loyalty above all else. Their tactics in battle reflected their wild nature. They were the Emperor's executioners, unleashed upon those who dared defy his will. The Space Wolves' story is one of heroism and tragedy, of battles won and brothers lost. Theirs is a saga written in the blood of their enemies and sung in the great halls of the Fang, their formidable fortress monastery. Each warrior's tale is a thread in the tapestry of their chapter's history. This history speaks of undying loyalty to the Emperor and a thirst for glory in battle. As we explore their journey through the millennia, remember that to understand the Space Wolves is to understand what it means to be a warrior in the Emperor's service. They embody the primal, untamed spirit that lurks in the heart of every battle brother of the Adeptus Astartes. During the era of the Unification Wars, Terra was a center of conflict, a fragmented world of techno-barbarian warlords and nascent empires. It was into this cauldron of strife that the Emperor of Mankind forged his legions, each destined to play its part in the grand vision of unification. The 6th Legion, which would later become known as the Space Wolves, was unique even in its infancy. Born from the gene seed of their future primarch, Leman Russ, they were created from a stock of hardy and ferocious warriors. Yet, in these early days, they were without the guidance of Russ, still unaware of their destined leader, roaming somewhere in the cosmos. The 6th Legion was shaped by the Emperor's hand, but even he could not fully tame their wild nature. These early warriors were culled from the most savage tribes of Terra, men and women who knew only the law of the blade and the strength of their own will. Their role was somewhat enigmatic. Unlike their brother legions, the 6th was kept in reserve, their might unleashed only when the Emperor deemed it necessary. The 6th Legion was a weapon of terror, an instrument of fear and retribution. Where diplomacy failed and other legions could not tread, the 6th brought compliance through raw, unbridled savagery. The 6th's warriors were not disciplined in the conventional sense. They were unruly and prone to acts of extreme aggression. Yet there was a method to their madness. Theirs was the art of swift and overwhelming assault, which leaves no room for the enemy to regroup or retaliate. In the fires of those early battles, the foundations of the Space Wolves were laid. A legion born of Terra's harshest environments, destined for glory and infamy in equal measure in the records of the Imperium. Let us turn our gaze to the dark times of the Horus Heresy. In those dire days, the Space Wolves stood as staunch defenders of the Emperor's vision against the tides of treachery. The saga of the Space Wolves in the Heresy is not just a story of battle, but of loyalty tested and the enduring strength of brotherhood. When the War Master Horus turned against the Emperor, Leman Russ and his wolves were among the most vocal in opposing this betrayal. Their most pivotal role was the tragic assault on Prospero, the homeworld of the Thousand Suns. Acting on orders from the Emperor, yet manipulated by Horus, Russ led his legion in a devastating attack against Magnus the Red and his legion. It was a battle that would leave deep scars physically and in the Space Wolves' psyche. In the aftermath of Prospero, the Space Wolves found themselves harried by the forces of Horus. Pursued by the Alpha Legion, they were forced into a desperate retreat through the Alaxis Nebula. It was grim, with the wolves pushed to their limits. Ever driven by a personal vendetta against the traitors, Leman Russ engaged Horus himself at the Battle of Trisolian. It was a confrontation of monumental proportions. Though the Wolf King wounded Horus, the Space Wolves suffered grievous losses, and Russ himself was gravely injured. Regaining strength, the Space Wolves continued their campaign of vengeance, relentlessly hunting those who had turned against the Emperor. Their path was fury and retribution, reflecting their Primarch's indomitable will. In the closing days of the Horus heresy, the Space Wolves were not present at the Siege of Terra, a fact that would haunt them for ages to come. Their Primarch, Leman Russ, disappeared in the aftermath, embarking on a mysterious quest into the Eye of Terror, only to return upon the arrival of the Wolf Times, leaving his legion to carry on his legacy. In these recent times, the Space Wolves have continued to embody their Primarch's legacy, confronting the galaxy's gravest threats with their characteristic ferocity and valor. Their deeds in this era are marked by their unyielding defiance against the encroaching darkness and chaos. The Space Wolves have faced numerous challenges and adversaries, from the insidious forces of chaos to the enigmatic Tyranids. Their most notable encounters include the defense of their homeworld, Fenris, against the relentless assaults of the Thousand Suns, their ancient adversaries. This conflict, known as the Siege of the Fenris System, saw the Space Wolves push back against overwhelming odds. However, victory did not come without cost. The Space Wolves' great companies were scattered, and many valiant warriors fell in battle, their sagas ending on the frozen fields of Fenris. In the wake of these tumultuous events, the Space Wolves witnessed the advent of the Primaris Marines, a new breed of warriors created by the genius of Archmaegos Belisarius Cawl. Initially met with skepticism, these warriors, born of Leman Russ's Geneseed, have been gradually accepted into the chapter's ranks. They bring renewed strength to the Space Wolves, ensuring their legacy endures. In these dark times, they have found a new purpose in the Indomitus Crusade, led by the resurrected Primarch Guilliman. They have joined this galaxy-spanning campaign, bringing their ferocity to bear against the Imperium's foes and proving their unwavering loyalty to the Emperor once again. Vulca Fenrica, as they call themselves, are not just a chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. They embody the saga, myth, and legend of their Primarch, Leman Russ. Theirs is a culture steeped in the traditions of Fenris, a death world where only the strongest and most cunning survive. From this harsh cradle, the Space Wolves draw not just recruits, but their essence. The customs of Fenris shape their identity, from the tribal markings adorning their armor to the wolf pelts that drape their broad shoulders. In the great halls of the Fang, the Space Wolves live as a warrior brotherhood. Their bonds are forged in the fires of battle and tempered in the ale of their feasts. They regale each other with tales of heroism and honor, for in their culture, the saga of a warrior is his most prized possession. Their feasts are legendary, gatherings where battle brothers become bards, recounting their deeds with as much fervor as they fight. Each Space Wolf aspires to have his saga remembered, and his name echo through the ages alongside Russ himself. But make no mistake, beneath their boisterous exterior lies the soul of a warrior. Each Space Wolf is a peerless fighter, tempered by the harshness of Fenris and honed by the disciplines of war. Theirs is a path of the warrior, a journey through the ranks from Bloodclaw to Grey Hunter, and for the few, the revered Longfangs. The Space Wolves' beliefs and rituals are intertwined with their reverence for their lost Primarch. They are deeply convinced that Russ will one day return in the galaxy's darkest hour. This belief fuels their relentless drive in battle, the hope that each deed brings them closer to the return of their legendary father. The culture of the Wolves is a patchwork of savage nobility, brotherhood, and a relentless pursuit of glory. They are the Emperor's executioners, warriors without peer, and keepers of sagas that span the millennia. In the Space Wolves, the spirit of the wild endures, a reminder of a time when legends walked the stars. From their inception, the Space Wolves were an anomaly among the Legion Astartes. Unlike their brother legions, they were not conquerors or empire builders. Their loyalty lay singularly with Fenris and the Emperor. Their cultural isolation on Fenris and a fervent devotion to the Emperor's directives positioned them uniquely within the Imperium's structure. The 6th Legion's early structure and organization fundamentally differed from other legions. They did not possess vast stellar domains or engage in relentless crusades. Their culture, deeply rooted in the traditions of Fenris, emphasized unwavering obedience to the Emperor's will. This singular loyalty was unparalleled, even exceeding that of Lorgar's word-bearers, whose response to the Emperor's censure was not compliance, but subversion. The Space Wolves' unique disposition as the Emperor's enforcers is further exemplified by their retention of rune priests, despite the Emperor's decree against the use of psychic powers. This decision underlines a significant aspect of their role, an exemption perhaps granted by the Emperor himself, acknowledging their distinct purpose and the unique nature of their psychic practices. Their home, the Fang, stood as a self-sufficient bastion, capable of sustaining the Legion independently. This autonomy ensured that the Space Wolves remained unentangled in the broader political and resource-dependent networks of which other legions were part. In fact, outside of Terra itself, Fenris and the Fang are perhaps the strongest bastions of humanity among the stars. Unconstrained by the typical bonds that tied other legions to territories, people, or ideologies, they were an unanchored force, fiercely loyal, able to be directed against any foe deemed a threat to the Emperor's vision. Their role goes beyond the simple label of executioners. They were a uniquely positioned force, a legion with the freedom and the mandate to act directly upon the Emperor's will, a sharp and unyielding instrument in the hands of the master of mankind. Rune priests, in their role as spiritual leaders, embody the shamanic heritage of the Fenrisian tribes. Their powers and wisdom are rooted in the primal energies of their world, entwining them with the elemental forces of nature. To the Space Wolves, these warrior mystics are the voice of Fenris itself, interpreters of the will of the gods and the whisperings of the planet. More than just battlefield psykers, rune priests are the chapter's oral history custodians. They are the skalds who preserve the sagas and legends of their brethren, ensuring that the deeds and sacrifices of the Space Wolves are never forgotten. In their words, the saga of each warrior lives on, immortalized in the annals of the chapter. The rune priests' understanding of the universe is unique, shaped by the lens of their Fenrisian worldview. They perceive the warp not as a realm of chaos, but as a part of the natural order, a fierce and wild sea of energy to be navigated and respected. This perspective deeply influences their approach to their psychic abilities, using them in harmony with the natural world rather than as a force to dominate or fear. In the heat of battle, rune priests are a sight to behold. They channel the fury of the storm, the blizzard's cold bite, and the earth's wrath. Their presence inspires their brothers, reminding them of the primal powers that watch over them and the ancient pact between the Space Wolves and their storied home. The recruitment of Space Wolves is a saga, steeped in the brutal trials and traditions of their homeworld, Fenris. Unlike many other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Wolves do not simply select their aspirants. They must be chosen by fate and proven in the crucible of Fenris's harshest environments. Fenris is a world of warriors, where only the strongest survive. It is a place of mythic beasts, towering mountains, and treacherous seas. In this harsh landscape, the tribes of Fenris thrive, their lives a perpetual struggle against the elements and the monstrous creatures that roam their world. It is from these tribes that the Space Wolves draw their recruits, seeking out those who have the strength and courage to endure the trials that lie ahead. Many aspirants perish in these trials, claimed by the beasts, the elements, or the sheer exhaustion. But those who survive, those who demonstrate the resilience, ferocity, and sheer will to live, attract the attention of the Space Wolves. These survivors are then approached by a chooser of the valiant, a veteran Space Wolf tasked with identifying potential recruits. Upon selection, the journey of these aspirants has only just begun. They are taken to the Fang, the mighty fortress monastery of the Space Wolves, where they undergo further trials and the implantation of the Geneseed. Here they are subjected to the unique genetic heritage of Lehman Russ, a process fraught with danger and transformation. Many aspirants do not survive this stage, succumbing to the overwhelming power of the Canis Helix. Those who emerge successfully from this genetic metamorphosis begin their training as Bloodclaws, the chapter's youngest and most eager warriors. Their initiation is not merely a training of arms, but an indoctrination into the legends, sagas, and customs of the Space Wolves. They learn to channel their feral instincts and to fight not just as warriors, but as members of a pack. From the frozen wilderness of Fenris to the hallowed halls of the Fang, their recruits are forged in the image of their primarch, Lemon Russ, destined to become warriors of legend in the Emperor's service. The gene seed of Lemon Russ, imbued with his formidable traits, interacts with these hardy Fenrisians in a way that does not work with individuals from other worlds. This compatibility is not merely physical, but also spiritual and psychological. The gene seed amplifies the inherent qualities of Fenrisians, their primal strength, heightened senses, and innate warrior spirit. However, this bonding has its complications. The gene seed of the Space Wolves carries within it the seeds of the Wulfen, a bestial transformation that lurks within every Space Wolf. This genetic quirk is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it endows the Space Wolves with abilities beyond those of their Astartes brethren. On the other, it risks unleashing the savage, uncontrollable Wulfen aspect hidden within their genetic code. The people of Fenris, shaped by their world to embody the traits of hunters and survivors, are uniquely suited to harnessing the power of the Canis Helix. Their upbringing in a world of predators and prey, their familiarity with the call of the wild, and their indomitable spirit allow them to walk the fine line between the disciplined warrior and the feral beast. It is a balance that individuals from other worlds, lacking the same cultural and environmental conditioning, struggle to maintain. The recruitment of aspirants, exclusively from Fenris, thus is not merely a matter of tradition for the Space Wolves, but a necessity dictated by the very nature of their gene seed. The harsh trials that these aspirants undergo before their transformation into Space Marines serve not only to test their physical prowess, but also to prepare them psychologically for the changes the Canis Helix will wreak upon their bodies and minds. Imagine, in the heart of this frozen wilderness, a group of young Fenrisian warriors gathers, each with a fire in their eyes and a thirst for glory. They come from different tribes, each renowned for their unique skills and savage might. But they share a common dream: to ascend the ranks of the fabled Space Wolves and etch their names in the sagas of their people. Those selected by the priests are sent to train in war camps throughout Fenris's northern pole. It is here, in these secluded bastions of war and brotherhood, that the future of the chapter is forged from the hardy stock of Fenrisian tribal warriors. These young aspirants, plucked from the unforgiving landscapes of their homeworld, are transformed into formidable warriors. The camps themselves are harsh and unyielding, mirroring the ruthless nature of Fenris. Within their confines, the aspirants are initiated into the ways of war, but the lessons taught here extend far beyond the mere skills of combat. These aspirants are grouped into ad hoc units. Their training is a relentless gauntlet of trials and challenges that test their skill, endurance, and cunning. Each task is designed to push them to their limits and beyond, to weed out those lacking the heart and soul of a true Space Wolf. Unlike many other Astartes chapters that focus solely on individual strength and combat effectiveness, the Space Wolves demand more. They seek warriors who can fight not just with valor, but with intelligence and a sense of camaraderie. The pack is everything, and each member must be as committed to his brothers as he is to the mission at hand. Amidst the unforgiving terrains of Asaheim, these packs face the ferocity of nature and the monstrous creatures that roam the land. The aspirants must learn to navigate and survive in an environment that is as deadly as any enemy they will face in battle. The trials are brutal, but they serve a purpose. In the fire of these challenges, the bonds of brotherhood are formed, bonds that will be the foundation of their future as Space Wolves. Throughout this period of trials, the aspirants are closely watched by the wolf priests and the training officers. Every action, every decision is scrutinized, for the Space Wolves do not seek mere warriors. They seek warriors with the heart of a wolf, fierce, loyal, and unyielding. Their last trial, as dictated by ancient tradition, is the perilous test of Morkai. Named after the two-headed wolf of Fenrisian lore, this trial is designed to push the aspirants to their physical and mental limits. The youths must trek across the treacherous plains of Asarheim, navigate through the deadly ironwood forests, and face the monstrous Fenrisian wolves, all while enduring the merciless Fenrisian climate. They face blinding snowstorms, scale treacherous ice cliffs, and evade deadly ice serpents, their resolve hardening with each challenge. As the aspirants traverse the ironwood forests, they encounter a pack of Fenrisian wolves, creatures as large as tanks and twice as ferocious. The battle that ensues is brutal and swift, an actual test of their combat prowess and teamwork. Exhausted but unbowed, the aspirants finally reach the gates of the Fang. Here they are met by the imposing wolf priests, the guardians of the chapter's legacy and traditions. The wolf priests scrutinize each aspirant, their gaze piercing through to the very soul. The wolf priests see in each aspirant and in their companions the spark of the true warriors of Fenris. They are chosen to undergo the grueling transformation process into Space Marines, a path fraught with danger and pain but leading to unparalleled honor and might. Not all survive the transformation. The path of the Space Wolf is as perilous as it is glorious. Those who survive the process and the training now count themselves as Bloodclaw of the Space Wolves. The Wolves of Fenris are warriors without peers, steeped in traditions and rituals that trace back to the pre-imperial days of their icy, feral planet. However, this unique heritage has, over the millennia, presented a significant difficulty when it comes to the creation of successor chapters. The core of this issue lies in their gene seed. The gene seed of the Space Wolves is notoriously unstable. This instability manifests most prominently in the form of the Wulfen, a genetic aberration where the beast within overtakes the warrior, transforming them into something that is both less and more than human. This curse of the Wulfen is not just a physical transformation, but a spiritual one, deeply rooted in the psyche of every space wolf. It is a constant battle, a struggle of the warrior's soul against the primal and savage nature that lurks within. Given this inherent instability, the creation of new chapters from their gene stock has been fraught with peril. The Imperium, ever cautious, has been reluctant to sanction the founding of new chapters from such unpredictable genetic material. The risk of the Wulfen curse manifesting in these new chapters is a gamble that few are willing to take. The one notable attempt, the Wolf Brothers, serves as a stark reminder of this danger. Plagued by rampant genetic mutation, the Wolf Brothers were ultimately disbanded, a grim testament to the challenges inherent in the Space Wolves' gene seed. Furthermore, the culture and traditions of the Space Wolves are so deeply ingrained, so fundamentally a part of their identity, that replicating it outside the sagas and icebound peaks of Fenris has proven nearly impossible. The Space Wolves are not just warriors, they are the sons of Fenris, molded by a world that is as harsh and unforgiving as it is majestic. Their ways, their beliefs, their very essence are inextricably tied to the land that bore them. To be a Space Wolf is to be Fenrisian, not just in blood but in spirit. Thus we find ourselves with a chapter that stands essentially alone, its lineage untamed and untamable. The Space Wolves are a singular force in the Imperium, their howls echoing across the stars, a reminder of their Primarch's legacy and the wild heart that beats within each of their warriors. In their scarcity of successors, we see not just a tale of genetic anomaly, but a saga of a chapter whose spirit is so fierce, so indomitable, that it resists duplication, remaining unique in the records of other Astartes chapters. My journey into understanding their organization has been as challenging as it is fascinating, for they need to conform to the strictures of the Codex Astartes, like their brother chapters. The Space Wolves are organized into great companies, each a legion in its own right, led by a Wolf Lord. These great companies are unique entities, with its own customs, heraldry, and even fleet. This decentralization reflects their nomadic hunter-warrior nature, a stark contrast to the structured order of other Adeptus Astartes chapters. In my extensive studies, I've learned that the warriors of the Space Wolves are grouped into packs, not the rigid squad structures observed in other chapters. The youngest and most eager amongst them are the Bloodclaws, brash and yearning for glory. Then, As they mature and temper their ferocity with wisdom, they ascend to become Grey Hunters, the solid spine of the chapter. The oldest, the Long Fangs, are sagely warriors entrusted with the chapter's heaviest weapons, their experience invaluable in the heat of battle. The elite amongst them, the Wolf Guard, are a class apart. They are not only the fiercest warriors, but also the custodians of the chapter's traditions. Each Wolf Guard is a living legend, his saga woven into the very fabric of the Space Wolves' lore. Their fleet, much like their great companies, roams the stars independently. It is not merely a collection of warships, but a prowling pack, an extension of their predatory nature. This autonomy in their naval assets allows them to respond swiftly and strike hard, much like the wolves of old Fenris they so admire. The Fang, their fortress monastery on Fenris, is more than a stronghold. It is a symbol of their endurance, a monument to their victories and losses. Within its walls, the Space Wolves gather, not just as warriors, but as a brotherhood bound by unbreakable kinship and ancient tradition. Known to the Fenrisians as the Et, is a marvel of construction, a towering edifice that pierces the heavens. Its origins are as ancient as they are shrouded in the mists of myth and legend. Crafted in the long-lost days of the Great Crusade, it was built with the aid of the Emperor's own architects and engineers, a gift to his son, Russ, and Space Wolves. It is said that the Fang was constructed with technologies and materials that even now remain beyond the grasp of the Imperium. Its structure melded seamlessly with the living rock of the mountains. The fortress is not merely a dwelling or a redoubt, but a symbol of the Space Wolves' indomitability. Its spires and towers reach towards the sky, defying the elements, just as its inhabitants defy their foes. Within its walls are halls of such grandeur, they could house entire armies, chambers filled with the relics and trophies of 1,000 battles, and forges whose fires never dim. But it is not just the grandeur of the Fang that inspires awe, it is its impregnability. Built into the side of a mountain, it is part fortress, part natural formation. Its defenses are formidable. Colossal gun batteries and laser arrays are carved into its rocky facade, capable of felling the mightiest of enemy warships from the heavens. Its walls, lined with the hardest ferrocrete and reinforced with adamantium, have withstood the ravages of time, the fury of nature and the onslaught of countless enemies. Beneath the Fang lies a labyrinth of tunnels and catacombs, delving deep into the planet's heart. Here, in these hidden depths, lie the secrets of the chapter, and the tombs of heroes whose names are etched into the very soul of the Space Wolves. The fortress is a bulwark against the enemies without. It is a sanctuary for the spirits of the warriors who have fallen in the service of the All-Father. What truly makes the Fang an unassailable stronghold is not its physical structure alone, but the warriors who inhabit it. The Space Wolves, the sons of Russ, are warriors without equal, and their fortress reflects their will. Within its halls they train, honing their skills for the battles to come, their howls echoing off the ancient stone. The Fang has withstood the ravages of time, the assaults of demons and traitors alike. In sum, the Space Wolves are a chapter unlike any other, a brotherhood where individual prowess in battle is as important as their collective might. Their organization is a reflection of their untamed spirits, free, fierce, and unyielding. The Wolf Guard hold a unique place. Handpicked by their Wolf Lord, each member of this elite cadre is a hero in his own right, chosen not for longevity or mere experience, but for acts of exceptional valor. Imagine young warriors, their armor still fresh with the marks of recent battles, standing shoulder to shoulder with grizzled veterans, each a saga of war, written in flesh and blood. Picture a battlefield where a bloodclaw, his heart ablaze with the fury of youth, turns the tide of battle through sheer audacity. His deeds catch the eye of the Wolf Lord, a nod of approval, and a legend is born. This is how the Wolf Guard are chosen in the crucible of battle, under the gaze of the All-Father. Once chosen, these warriors are bestowed with honors befitting their status. The Wolf Guard are not bound by the standard armaments and roles typical of other Astartes formations. Instead, they are granted access to the chapter's finest war gear, from ancient suits of tactical dreadnought armor to master-crafted weapons echoing with the deeds of heroes past. Each piece tells a story, each rune etched in their armor a testament to their prowess. The Wolf Guard are also mentors, imparting their hard-earned wisdom to younger space wolves. In the din of battle, they are the calm amidst the storm, guiding and leading by example. The Wolf Guard do not simply fight, they inspire, their very presence a rallying cry to their brethren. Central to the Wolf Guard is the figure of the battle leader. Chosen for his leadership and valor, the battle leader is the Wolf Lord's right hand, his voice and will made manifest. Each Wolf Guard saga is interwoven with that of their great company, and through their deeds, they forge the chapter's history. They are the bearers of their Lord's honor, the embodiment of the Space Wolves' indomitable spirit. In the Wolf Guard, we see the heart of the Space Wolves, fierce individuality bound by unbreakable loyalty, each warrior a tale of heroism, each deed adding to the grand saga of the chapter. As a historiator, I find their stories to be a rich tapestry of courage, loyalty, and ferocity, a tapestry that continues to grow with each battle, each triumph, each sacrifice. Such are the Wolf Guard, the elite among elites, whose sagas echo through the corridors of time, undimmed by the passage of ages. The great wolf of the Space Wolves, Logan Grimnar, a figure whose saga is as vast and storied as the icy expanses of Fenris itself. Grimnar's journey began over 7 centuries ago, and his life has been a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Space Wolves. Rising through the ranks to become the Great Wolf, he has commanded the chapter for over 5 centuries, making him one of the longest-serving and most venerable chapter masters in the annals of the Adeptus Astartes. Grimnar's reputation as a warrior is nigh unparalleled. His ferocity in battle, matched only by his loyalty to the Emperor and Leman Russ, has seen him lead his great company, the champions of Fenris, in countless battles against the myriad foes of mankind. His thirst for combat is said to mirror that of Russ himself, and in Grimnar's hands, the legacy of the Space Wolves has been both honored and expanded. In battle, Grimnar is a force of nature, wielding his legendary axe, Morkai, with a skill and fervor that have seen him triumph over enemies that would break lesser warriors. His tactical acumen is as sharp as his blade, guiding the Space Wolves through the most harrowing of conflicts to resounding victories that have cemented his place as a hero of the Imperium. Yet, it is not just his prowess in war that sets Logan Grimnar apart. Unlike many of his peers, Grimnar possesses a deep and abiding compassion for the ordinary people of the Imperium, a trait that has endeared him to countless citizens across the galaxy. He understands that the Space Wolves are not just warriors of the Emperor, but also guardians of humanity, a role he embraces with a fervor that rivals his zeal in battle. This compassion, however, does not extend to those who would interfere with his chapter. Grimnar is fiercely protective of the Space Wolves' independence and has bristled at attempts by the Imperium's other authorities, particularly the Inquisition, to exert control over his chapter. His disputes with the Ecclesiarchy and the Inquisition are the stuff of legend, born from his unshakable belief in the sovereignty of his warriors and his conviction in their sacred duty to the Emperor. Under Logan Grimnar's leadership, the Space Wolves have flourished, growing in strength and reputation. His rule has been marked by an unbroken series of triumphs that have not only crushed the enemies of the Imperium, but also won the enduring gratitude of countless Imperial commanders. The 12 great companies are akin to the ancient clans of Fenris, the Space Wolves' harsh and unforgiving homeworld. Each company is a family, a community, bound by ties of loyalty and brotherhood that are as strong as ceramite. The warriors of a great company fight not just for the Emperor or for the Imperium, but for their brothers in arms, their Wolf Lord, and the honor of their company. Every great company has its own distinctive heraldry, a symbol that represents its spirit and history. These icons are proudly displayed on banners, armor, and even the Space Wolves' mighty warships. From the Blackmanes, whose emblem is the Black Wolf, symbolizing their ferocity and valor, to the Fire Howlers, known for their aggressive tactics and fiery spirit, each company's emblem tells a story, a part of the greater saga of the Space Wolves. The Wolf Lord who leads a great company is not just a commander but a patriarch, a figure of near-mythic status. He is a warrior of unmatched prowess, a leader whose sagas are sung by skalds across Fenris. His decisions shape the destiny of his company, and his actions in battle are the stuff of legends. Each great company is a self-contained army, capable of waging war independently. They are nomadic by nature, each company's fleet roaming the stars, bringing the Emperor's wrath to the enemies of mankind. Their deeds and triumphs add to the Space Wolves' grand saga, a saga that is as eternal as the stars themselves. The spiritual leaders, the healers, and the shepherds of souls within the chapter, guardians of both the physical and moral well-being of their battle brothers. The wolf priests, their role, complex and multifaceted, weaves through the heart of what it means to be a space wolf. The wolf priests is a role steeped in the primal and mystical traditions of Fenris. They stand apart, shrouded in the dual mantles of warrior and priest. Clad in armor inscribed with runes and symbols of power, their presence is both commanding and enigmatic. In one hand, they might carry a weapon, a Crozius Arcanum, symbolizing their martial prowess. In the other, they often bear the healing balms and sacred unguents needed to tend to the wounds of their brethren. They are the keepers of the chapter's lore, its history, and its spiritual traditions. It is they who recount the sagas of heroes past, their deep voices resonating through the halls of the Fang, ensuring that the deeds of their forebears are never forgotten. To onlookers, they can be seen to be a chapter's apothecaries and chaplains, protecting the chapter's spiritual and physical health. In battle, they are a force unto themselves, rallying their brothers with cries that echo the howling of Fenrisian wolves. Their presence on the battlefield is a beacon to their kin, inspiring them to greater feats of bravery and reminding them of the honor and legacy they uphold. Yet it is perhaps in their role as recruiters and mentors to new initiates where the wolf priest's true importance is revealed, scouring the tribes of Fenris for those young warriors who show the promise and the fortitude to join the ranks of the Space Wolves. They watch the tribal combats and rites of passage, their keen eyes assessing the grit and spirit of each combatant. To be chosen by a wolf priest is to be marked for a destiny amongst the stars, to leave behind the life of a mortal and become a legend. The journey from aspirant to Space Marine is difficult, filled with trials that test every facet of a recruit's being. Here, the wolf priests are both guide and gatekeeper, pushing these young warriors to their limits and beyond. They administer the Geneseed and watch over the transformation it wreaks upon the aspirants. They are the shepherds guiding these initiates through the darkness of their metamorphosis, ensuring that they emerge not as mere warriors, but as space wolves. In their dual role as spiritual leaders and caregivers, the wolf priests embody the duality at the heart of the space wolves themselves, the savage warrior and the wise counselor. They are the living bridge between the wild, untamed nature of Fenris and the disciplined might of the Astartes. The 13th Great Company of the Space Wolves, known also as Dekar Tra, the Wolfenkind, or the Wolf Brothers. Their tale is not merely a chronicle of battles fought and won, but a saga into the essence of what it means to be a son of Fenris, a space wolf under the gaze of the All-Father. In the days when the Great Crusade swept across the galaxy, bringing the Emperor's light to the darkest corners, the 13th Great Company stood apart, even among their own kind. Formed from the fiercest warriors of Fenris, these men were companions to Lem and Russ. Their transformation from mortal men into Astartes was marked not only by physical change, but also by a deepening of the bond they shared with their Primarch and their world. Jorin Bloodhowl, a name etched in the sagas of old, was the first to lead these wolf brothers. Under his command, the 13th Company became a force of unparalleled ferocity, their deeds sung in the halls of the Fang. Yet within their ranks lurked a shadow, a curse that would shape their destiny, the curse of the Wolfen. This affliction, turning warriors into fearsome bestial forms, emerged without warning, a blade hanging over the heads of these proud sons of Fenris. Their legend reached its zenith during the tragic burning of Prospero. It was here, amidst the psychic storms and arcane warfare, that the 13th Company faced their most dire challenge. In the aftermath, they vanished, swallowed by the warp, their fate a mystery that would haunt the Space Wolves for millennia. The obsidian stone on the Grand Annulus within the Fang stands as a silent tale to their disappearance, a symbol of loss and undying loyalty. The 13th Company, though absent in body, remained ever present in the hearts of their brothers, their memory a beacon in the darkness. In the closing moments of the 41st millennium, the fabled 13th Great Company of the Space Wolves, long lost to the annals of history and time, began to emerge from the shifting tides of the warp. This storied company, known as the Wolfenkind, had vanished in the warp for nearly 10 millennia, their fate a subject of legend and speculation among the sons of Fenris. Their return was as sudden as their disappearance. The saga began anew when Ragnar Blackmane, one of the most renowned wolf lords of the Space Wolves, encountered the 13th Great Company. On a shadowy replica of Caris, a world ensnared by the machinations of the Thousand Suns, it was there that Lord Bulvi, the commander of the 13th, made his presence known, though shrouded in enigma and reticence about the details of their long odyssey in the warp. The warriors of the 13th Company, changed yet undaunted by the eons they had spent in the immaterial realm, fought valiantly alongside Ragnar and his warriors. Together, they thwarted a nefarious plot by the Chaos Sorcerer Maddox, a servant of the Thousand Suns, aimed at the destruction of the Space Wolves. The return of the Wolfenkind had its complications. As they reappeared across the galaxy, the Space Wolves launched numerous expeditions, driven by a desperate need to recover their lost brethren before they were discovered by Imperial forces. This quest, known as the Hunt for the Wulfen, was a race against time and suspicion, as sightings of the Wulfen by Imperial forces threatened to unravel the Space Wolves' secrecy and expose them to the scrutiny and ire of the wider Imperium. Despite their efforts, a Crusade fleet, assembled in response to these sightings, laid siege to the Fenris system, home of the Space Wolves. The return of the 13th Company, now emerging from the Eye of Terror during the tumultuous events of the 13th Black Crusade, brought them squarely into the conflicts that raged at the end of the millennium. Yet even in this age of strife, the 13th Great Company held on to a glimmer of hope. Following the Indomitus Crusade, it was revealed that a group of uncorrupted heresy-era members of the 13th, including Bulvi himself, were still alive. Trapped within a network of warp portals on Prospero, they were discovered and partially recovered by Njal Stormcaller and a contingent of Space Wolves. The 13th Great Company's character is indelibly marked by the Curse of the Wulfen, a genetic affliction that transforms some Space Wolves into beastly, lupine forms. The prevalence of the curse among the 13th is notably higher than in other companies, possibly exacerbated by their prolonged exposure to the warp. Yet despite their transformations, the Wolfenkind remain fierce and loyal warriors. In the field of battle, the Space Wolves are akin to a howling blizzard, unpredictable, unstoppable, and utterly devastating. They favor lightning-fast assaults, striking with a ferocity that can break the will of even the most disciplined foe. A Space Wolf force does not simply engage the enemy, it engulfs them. In a storm of violence, a maelstrom of close-quarter brutality, where the line between controlled tactics and primal savagery blurs. The heart of their strategy is the pack. Each pack, be it Grey Hunters, Bloodclaws, or the venerable Long Fangs, operates not just as a unit, but as a tight-knit family. They fight not for personal glory, but for the honor of their pack and their chapter. This brotherhood is their strength, lending a ferocious tenacity to their attacks. A Space Wolf pack is more than the sum of its parts, and when they charge into battle, each warrior fights with the fury of Fenris itself. The Space Wolves also possess a profound connection to the beasts of their world, which is exemplified in their use of the Thunderwolf cavalry. These monstrous wolf-like creatures are ridden into battle by the most fearless of the Space Wolves, crashing into enemy lines with the force of a tidal wave. It is a sight both terrifying and awe-inspiring, a testament to the raw natural power the Space Wolves wield. But make sure to mistake their ferocity for a lack of strategy. The Space Wolves are cunning hunters, capable of complex tactics and strategies. They adapt swiftly to the ebb and flow of battle, exploiting weaknesses with a predator's instinct. Their leaders, the Wolf Lords and the Wolf Guard, are not only fierce warriors, but also shrewd tacticians, able to direct the fury of their packs with devastating effectiveness. As a historiator of the Library Sanctus, I have delved into countless records of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, and their myriad deeds across the galaxy. The Space Wolves in particular stand apart in their character and conduct, and Combat Master Corrine's account offers a poignant insight into their fearsome reputation. Corrine's experiences with various Space Marine chapters highlight the diversity within the ranks of the Astartes, the Death Guard, with their murderous efficiency, the Blood Angels, angelic saviors in a firefight, the White Scars, exemplars of focus and merciless dedication, all portray the varied facets of these superhuman warriors. Yet, it is his encounter with the Space Wolves that leaves the most indelible mark on his psyche. Corrine's description of the Space Wolves as animals, and the worst of them all, speaks to a fundamental truth about this unique chapter. The Space Wolves, descended from the feral and hardy stock of Fenris, are often perceived as untamed and primal, their methods and manners at odds with what some might consider the nobler aspects of the Adeptus Astartes. Their actions during the Cobalt conflict, as described by Corrine, paint a vivid picture of warriors who not only engage in battle with unbridled ferocity, but also revel in the destruction they wreak. This brutality, this almost gleeful indulgence in the violence of war, sets them apart from their brother chapters, and indeed, from what many would expect of the Emperor's champions. Corrine's account suggests a deep discomfort, not just with the violence exhibited by the Space Wolves, but with the implications of their existence. The notion that the Emperor, in his quest to create the ultimate warriors, might have crossed a line with the Space Wolves, birthing something that defies the nobility and discipline typically associated with the Adeptus Astartes, is a troubling thought. It raises questions about the nature of the Imperium's crusade across the stars, and the means by which it seeks to achieve its ends. This sentiment of having sympathy with the enemy, as Corrine puts it, reflects a moral dilemma that is often overlooked in the tales of galactic conquest. Having delved into the records to bring forth accounts of times when this proud chapter's numbers dwindled, their very existence hanging by a thread, yet their spirit unbroken. The tragic First War for Armageddon. Here, the Space Wolves, led by their indomitable great wolf Logan Grimner, clashed not only with the demon hordes of chaos, but also with the Inquisition. In the aftermath of this conflict, their refusal to comply with the Inquisition's purges led to the infamous Months of Shame. This dark period saw the Space Wolves hunted, their forces scattered and their numbers once again perilously thinned. Yet it was during these harrowing times that the Space Wolves' character shone brightest. Even as their numbers waned, their resolve hardened. They fought not just for the survival of their chapter, but for the principles they held dear, for the lives and dignity of the very people they had sworn to protect. Another instance, more recent yet no less harrowing, occurred during the calamitous events of the 13th Black Crusade. The Space Wolves were hit hard by the forces of chaos, their losses exacerbated by the manifestation of the curse of the Wulfen among their ranks. It was a time of great upheaval, where the very fabric of the chapter was tested. Yet, through sheer determination and the will to endure, they emerged from this crucible, battered but unbroken. In the wake of the Horus Heresy, the Space Wolves, like many chapters, faced periods of great peril. Their numbers time and again were whittled down by relentless warfare, the curse of the Wulfen, and conflicts with imperial institutions like the Inquisition. However, none of these trials compared to the existential threat they faced during the bleak times of the 13th Black Crusade and its aftermath. The Space Wolves were battered, their numbers dangerously depleted, and the very continuation of their storied lineage hung precariously in the balance. It was during this dark epoch that the Imperium itself was undergoing a seismic change. The resurrection of the Primarch Guilliman and the introduction of the Primaris Marines marked a new chapter in the history of the Adeptus Astartes. The Primaris Marines, engineered by the genius of Belisarius Cawl, were more robust, more resilient, and more adept at warfare than their predecessors. But how would these new warriors be received by a chapter as steeped in tradition and as fiercely independent as the Space Wolves? The initial reception, it must be said, was mixed. The Space Wolves, proud of their heritage and wary of change, viewed these new brethren with suspicion. The Primaris Marines were seen as outsiders, their methods and their very creation at odds with the traditions of Fenris. However, as the dire situation of the chapter became increasingly apparent, pragmatism began to outweigh tradition. Logan Grimnar, the Great Wolf, saw the potential in these new warriors to rejuvenate his beleaguered chapter. He recognized that the Primaris Marines were not a replacement of what the Space Wolves were, but an augmentation, a means to continue their legacy. Thus, with a heavy heart but a clear vision for the future, Grimnar welcomed the Primaris Marines into the chapter. The introduction of the Primaris Marines into the Space Wolves was transformative. These new warriors brought not only their enhanced physical capabilities, but also a rejuvenated spirit to the chapter. They were integrated into the existing great companies, fighting alongside their brethren, learning the ways of the chapter, and proving themselves under the banners of the Wolf Lords. In the fires of battle, the Primaris Marines proved their worth time and again. They fought with the ferocity and valor that are the hallmarks of the Space Wolves, earning the respect of their older brethren. Their presence bolstered the chapter's ranks, allowing the Space Wolves to once again field a force befitting their legendary status. It becomes increasingly clear that their most defining characteristic, beyond their renowned ferocity in battle, is their unwavering loyalty. This loyalty, born from the depths of their primal hearts, is not merely to the Emperor or the ideals of the Imperium, but to its people, the countless souls that form the fabric of our vast domain. The Ultramarines, with their meticulous organization, and the Imperial Fists, with their unbreakable fortifications, serve the Imperium in ways that mirror their core philosophies. The Space Wolves, however, stand apart. Their service is not driven by the cold calculus of strategy or the stoic duty of defense, but by a deep-seated loyalty that permeates their very being. This loyalty is multifaceted. It is a loyalty to their Primarch, Leman Russ, and through him to the Emperor himself. But it is also a loyalty to the ideals that the Emperor embodies, the protection and stewardship of humanity. Unlike many of their Astartes brethren, the Space Wolves maintain a visceral connection to their human origins. They remember the harsh life on Fenris, their people's struggles and triumphs. This connection translates into a profound sense of guardianship over the Imperium's citizens. Their ferocity in battle is legendary but often misunderstood. It is not the savagery of mindless beasts, it is the fierce protectiveness of a pack. They fight to win battles and safeguard the lives and freedoms of those they deem their kin, every man, woman and child under the Emperor's domain. The Space Wolves do not see themselves as separate from the rest of humanity. They are its champions, its unyielding defenders. We see this repeatedly in their tales and sagas, filled with heroism and self-sacrifice. They do not seek glory for glory's sake. Each heroic deed, each battle won, is a testament to their commitment to the people they protect. They are not aloof and distant like so many of their Astartes brethren. They walk amongst the populace, sharing their joys and sorrows, making their loyalty not a matter of duty, but heartfelt commitment. This loyalty has led them to clash with even the Inquisition and other imperial authorities. For the Space Wolves, loyalty to the Emperor is not blind obedience to the institutions of the Imperium. It is a deeper, more personal fealty to the vision of an empire that serves its people and not the other way around. In the chronicles of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Wolves are an unparalleled breed. Their saga is not merely a record of battles won and foes vanquished. It is a narrative steeped in tradition, in the power of brotherhood, and in the unbreakable bond between warrior and kin. They are more than just Space Marines. They are the embodiment of the feral spirit, of warriors who have walked through fire and emerged stronger. As a historiator of the Libri Sanctus, it has been my honor to delve into the depths of their history, to explore the complexities of their nature, and to impart to you the essence of what makes the Space Wolves a legend within the Imperium. They are the Emperor's executioners, yes, but also his loyal sons, guardians who have time and again risen to meet challenges that would have broken lesser warriors. The Space Wolves have faced internal strife, the scourge of the Vulfen, and the skepticism of the wider Imperium. Yet in each instance, they have emerged with their banners flying high, their howls echoing across the stars. Their resilience in the face of adversity, their ability to adapt and embrace the future while honoring the past, exemplifies the enduring spirit of mankind's greatest defenders. As we conclude, let us remember the Space Wolves not just as ferocious warriors, but as keepers of a legacy that predates the Imperium itself. Their stories, from the sagas sung in the Fang's great halls to their unrecorded acts of valor, form an integral part of the tapestry of our Imperium's history. In the Space Wolves, we find the reflection of humanity's indomitable spirit, fierce, proud, and forever free. I thank you all for your rapt attention and the honor of your presence in this hallowed hall. May the sagas of the Space Wolves continue to inspire us all, reminding us that even in the darkest of times, the light of heroism, loyalty, and honor never fades. For us and the All-Father,